introduction, just so you guys know. Yeah. So Don grew up in the YK Delta. He lived in Kasiglik, he lived in Akiak, and then he went to high school in Bethel. He started his writing career here in the Bethel area. And throughout high school, he wrote for the Tundra Drums and co-hosted a somewhat infamous late night show on KYUK. It would be fun to see recordings of some of that. After graduating from BRHS, he went to college to Rock Fairbanks with the Funny Eskimos, which I assume is a band, and then returned and taught high school in Bethel for several years.
Funky.
The Funky Eskimos? Okay.
Yes.
So was that a band of folks from Bethel that you were in with in college?
Yeah,
oh,
Kevin
cool.
Morgan, Chris Morgan, and Ralph Sara.
Oh, okay. Very nice. So Don is now a teacher, now teaches as a professor and is chair of the Department of Writing at UAA. So he's a novelist, a screenwriter, and a self-described tundra poet philosopher. Recent honors include an Alaska Literary Prize, contributions to Alaska Literacy Award, 2 Rasmussen Project Awards, a University of Alaska Innovate Award, and the Anchorage Reads Novel of the Year. He co-authored the best-selling memoir Never Quit and Warrior's Creed, and he now lives in Bear Valley with his wife, 2 kids, 2 dogs, and 2 mini bears. So thank you for joining us, Don. And I just want to say before we get started, I think it's so cool that with every book, you totally shift gears from, suspenseful fiction to nonfiction and now to poetry. So I'm really excited to hear some of your poetry today. And with that, we can turn it over to you.
All right. Thanks so much, Teresa. Thanks to the library for hosting this and inviting me to come. It's so great to see. And there's people from all over the country on here tonight, which is fabulous. It's like you have nowhere to go. like you're having to stay home tonight. So it's really, I'm just honored to have this chance to share some of my poetry and tell you a little bit about some of the poems that are in the new book, and maybe a little bit of kind of personal history. It's probably some of the most personal stuff that I've ever put out there. Man, it's been a crazy year for all of us, I know, myself included. Our family has gone through some zaniness that I'll probably tell you a little bit about as I go through the poems tonight. I self-published a chapbook of poems 20 years ago, and I was tearing my house apart trying to find those because I read a few of the poems at the cultural center, and I had I think I printed 30 copies, read the poems, sold them all that day at that event, and then never did anything else again with my poetry really. And I couldn't find the little, I know somewhere in my house there's one of those chapbooks left, but I have the first dollar I ever made from Grant Fairbanks here, signed. He's supposedly the keeper of my books, and it's just funny to think that 20 years later I would have an actual book of poems, and it's so strange to kind of hold it and to get to share it with the people in Bethel first is really, really kind of a powerful thing for me in ways I can't even begin to describe. Just the idea that even my sister's artwork is on the front cover. This is from a painting that she did. And to get to work with the publisher that I got to work with to do this has just been, it's been a little bit of a magical experience. And it all comes back to Bethel, which is so crazy. Every once in a while, I'll get contacted by people who ask if they could publish some of my work. And because I have an agent, I always have to kind of say no. That's a long story I don't want to get into. But this summer, I had a kind of an interesting email that came to me, and it was a woman who was wanting to talk to me about maybe publishing some of my work. And the only reason I kind of listened to her was because she said her mom was working in Bethel and had read some of my stuff. And that led to this book happening with Sequoia Schmidt. She's on here, and as well as her mom, Joanne. And so thank you to both of you. And I can't believe this has happened, really. I never really thought the books would end up in something like this. And so it's really kind of fun, and I'm excited to get to share it with the people that kind of had made this happen, from best childhood friends and family members and just people all over the country. So I'm really grateful that you're here tonight, and I hope I can at least make you chuckle a couple times, and maybe make some of you cry, and maybe make some of you angry, and whatever I can do with this, we'll try to make it happen tonight. I'm going to start tonight with a poem that kind of gives pays homage to a friend of mine who is magical in her own right from the village, and I'll read the poem and then maybe I'll explain a little bit of it to you. It's called The Shaman Girl. In 8th grade, I met a shaman. This girl possessed the power of kindness. My magical friend transformed me, changed the skin others saw, so I was no longer different, strange. Decades later, when I felt scared again, she knew. The shaman sent me raven skin, then salmon skin. With her gift transformed, no longer afraid to be strange and different. That's about my friend Lonnie Hoover, who made this book for me. She, for each of my books, she's made one of these for me. I haven't seen her in a long time, basically since I was a kid. And yet she sends me these tailor-made, they're like magic. I don't have any clothes that fits as good as well as these do. I would wear them all the time if that was kind of okay. And people wouldn't just think I'm strange. I mean, they probably do anyway, but and I met her in the village when I was a kid, and I was struggling with trying to fit in, being the only white boy, and she made it okay. And then as I was kind of struggling with this idea of how to share my stories and be a writer, she makes me these like armor, so that when I do an event, I can wear this and I'm okay, like saying what I need to say and being who I need to be, I think. And so it's been a very powerful, magical thing for me. And so I like to I'm glad I could kind of open with that. I wish she was on today here to listen to that. I'm going to go to the next poem. Some of the stuff that you'll find in this book it comes from an idea that starts to haunt me, and I might not write the poem for years, and then I will, like the idea will come there. And this one comes from a word that I had never knew existed, or a condition, and I ruminated on it for too long, and then I realized I had maybe been living it. And the condition is called Deja vu, and that is a condition people actually experience where they have deja vu all the time. It just happens continually, so that they think that they've always experienced that before. And so I realized that some of us that kind of grew up in Southwest Alaska, where we've things just kind of keep happening. The same things keep happening again and again. And I wrote this before the pandemic, which many of you know. I wrote The Raven's Gift, and that's about a pandemic. And it's been strange to kind of see something happen. But of course it's happened before here in Alaska. And so this is Deja vu. I've read these headlines before, maybe yesterday, but the date says otherwise. And that old friend I met today in her sorrel boots with the gray wool liners, she's the one who told me about you. I remember her saying that before. Every other day, someone new dies, someone I knew, and the news doesn't change that much, maybe just the headlines, but I've read them before. And the weather woman flails her arms at the storm on the map. I've seen her push away the warm before. And this sense, the doctor calls it rare, but he's already said that too. This disorder, this syndrome, disease, malady, this sense that I've seen it all before as I sit at the table, covered in nothing that can surprise me, surrounded and swallowed by a tomorrow filled with yesterdays. Deja vu. So that's Deja vu. How strange would that be to experience that continually? But I guess some of us do a little bit. This one comes from an experience in the village, and maybe some of you have seen this before, where they cut a cross in the ice, and then the priest comes and blesses the water, and people take holy water home. And the first time I saw that, it was just like really a magical thing. I'd never seen anything like it before. Holy water. They walk on frozen water with steel chisels and chainsaws. Chips and dusts of ice spray, each cut, chip, chop, closer to safety, salvation, sobriety. At their feet, their work takes the shape of burden. One long vertical cut, 3 horizontal slashes, long, short, short, long. Someone will break through. The black water will rise, and the priest will raise his palms over the hole. The buckets, cups, pitchers, they fill all they carry away. At the edges of the cross, carved in the river skin, crystals coalesce. I wish we were live, because then you could just erupt in amazing, like applause. I'm kidding. It's so strange, this Zoom world we're in. This one's a true story. This is actually, I'll just read it, and then I can maybe talk about it. This is called Sleepover with a Seal. I slept beside a seal once, me on a worn couch, a thin blanket covering. The seal still frozen, 100-mile journey by sled from a breath hole in the ice to the painted gray plywood floor of a house on the tundra. 8th grade with my mind on girls and basketball, my parents away, and our apartment in the school haunted. Sleeping at the Slims on a warm couch beside a dead seal, waiting to be transformed. Yeah, so that's a true story. I slept next to a dead seal once. It was thawing out. And what was kind of funny was, I was in 8th grade and thinking about girls and basketball. And I do remember this one, like, I think I was aware enough to realize kind of how kind of strange that was. And so, like, my last thing I did before bed was I just kind of reached down and patted the seal like a dog or something, like, good night, seal. And then the next day we cut it up. I don't write too many poems that are that rhyme. I kind of got that out of my system when I was in high school, trying to rap a lot and write hip hop lyrics. But every once in a while, I'll dabble a little bit. And this one is about an experience I had where I was hunting alone in the Killbuck Mountains, and a big storm hit. It's called My Tarp Coffin. With a jump, I awoke, and in the tempest, my heart broke, and with the tent, sank into the darkness of the lake. All alone, but still alive, shivering, struggling to survive. With a tarp, my coffin made, and in the screaming wind, I stayed. From the mountain sky, torrential rain, muscle quivers, giving way to pain, and finally, the morning ray, blowing in the frigid day. And from the cold cocoon I came, drenched and weary from the rain, into the brush with tarp and knife to build a fire for my life. Creeping cold caressed my soul, the sleepless night taking toll, and finally a twig alighted, a chance, a hope when flame ignited. And as the wind and rain raged, a separate battle had been waged, and from the brush a victor strode, warm and strong against the cold, and with the flames devoured fear, and finally the sky would clear. For a peak, the shore I neared, where my tent had disappeared. So that's based on a true story when my tent got ripped off me in a storm and blew in the lake. I need to write part 2 of that, is when we recovered the tent from the lake, which was a whole nother story. And actually pretty funny, because we had to, my buddy Meyer and Aikman had to fly a boat in and a fish finder. And then I drove around because I knew kind of where it was in the lake and could use the old school fish finder and could see the contours of the lake went like this. And then it went like this where the tent was. And it was just down there. It was a weatherport tent. They pulled it out, and I think he used it just up until a few years ago, where he sold it to somebody. I'll read a couple more, or a few more here. A lot of these are about the Kuskokwim River, because it kind of had such an essential part of my life. It still is. I still spend a lot of time on the Upper Kuskokwim now, out of McGrath area, but get to Bethel whenever I can. This one is just called the Kuskokwim, and I wrote this for my friends. I read it at a wedding of Sarah Angstman and my buddy Ben Coons, and they got married right along the river. It was a really cool ceremony. This is called the Kuskokwim. This river began Akadamani a long time ago. And to those who lived along this river's banks, and those who dipped paddles, nets, and bows, this river meant life. And even now, in times of crashing ice and turning tide, this river brings hope. This river gives, this river takes. And from here, this river has no end. This river flows and oxbows and churns and turns in impossible directions. Like a tundra swan's neck, this river curves back upon itself, an endless series of question marks that never question. This river was here before us and will forever flow into the horizon. And to those who choose to make their home along the banks, this river is life. Right. Let's see. Here's another true story. This one's called Village School Bus. In August, the school bus arrived, a giant aluminum boat. We piled in, half a village of children grinning into the brisk morning air. October ice freeze-up found me stuck on the other side, ice pans keeping the bus from delivering us home on the river road. No relatives to stay with, the Wilson's family took me in, slept on the floor beside his bed, ate blackfish, dried pike, whitefish, salmon strips, seal oil, charged the occasional frozen pizza to my dad's account at the village store, maybe a few extra corn nuts and black cherry Shasta. When the river froze, the bus arrived to take us home, a giant wooden sled. I think back on that now, and I can't imagine like how insurance would handle that. Just kids piling in a sled, getting pulled to school. I don't think they would allow that. Let's see. So many fun ones to choose from in here. Here's another one. Let's see. Let me pick a silly one for a minute. I see a few dog people in the audience. This is for them. It's called Dog People. We spent millennia taming wolves, selecting for gentle demeanors, soft features, and loyalty. Now, a dog for everything. Show dogs, sled dogs, guard dogs, guide dogs, hot dogs, stray dogs, corn dogs, Shar-Pei dogs, dog-eared, dog-leg, dog-eat dog, doggy bag, sun dog, lost dog, bird dog, big dog, fire dog, boon dog, sick as a dog, coon dog, dog on, dog song, dog day, dog play, bad dog, mad dog, doggy smile, dog pile, dog this, dog that, all but a dog cat. I'll go back to serious. This one's really interesting to me. I had forgotten it was in here. So a couple weeks ago, Alaska lost like one of our great writers, Sherry Simpson. If you haven't read her work, man, read some of her book, like The Way Winter Comes, like just an extraordinary author. And she was one of my mentors in grad school. And she told me this story that I really remembered, and it was, I knew she was comfortable telling it to me because I was from Bethel and maybe believed in these sort of things. And it was that she had a dog die, and the next day she looked outside and the dog had walked to her window and laid down in the snow and then walked away. And she had, like had no, to her, that was the dog came to visit her. And today, as I was going through this, I caught this poem and I was like, that's about Sherry, man. It's super cool. So it's called Psychopomp. For 5 days, a gray wolf slept, curled at her grave. The guide of her soul, or a secret friend, met berry picking. The people mourned her, sometimes imagined soft sounds of the child they tucked in her parka. On the 6th day, a round depression in the snow, wolf and woman tracks leading away. She has a really extraordinary, some extraordinary stories about wolves. And when I wrote that, I wasn't thinking about her at all. But to me today, that was about Sherry. Here's kind of another fun one, I think. It's fun to me anyway. This is called Listen and Learn. I swung her around to my back, clasped my hands together beneath her little bottom, squatted, grabbed a dog leash, turned toward home. Her little cartoon chatter skipped from colors and mountains. I like to ride piggyback and trees, rocks, funny puppy, big truck, listen to the water, where's mama? And next time, I'll travel with her on the airplane. Somewhere between it all, she said, I see big fat moose. My mind scrolled back through her rambling and struck on big, fat. I didn't like her saying that. Wondered where she'd heard such an insensitive phrase. I was ready for the talk with her brother. Where did you hear that? I asked. Right there. Her little arm shot out, a pointing finger. Then movement in the alders, half again the length of the dog leash away, uncomfortably close, a big, fat moose. Another true story. It's funny how kids have a way to really make you, oh man, just, like make you aware of the world and your lives in a different way. And I think a lot about that with serious issues and wonder like that's where I can kind of get political and like, how can we not try to do something about this? How can we not care about these situations? And this one will let you know where I sit with some of this. It has to do when my daughter was born. Girl-made climate change. It's all women's fault, climate change is. Just kidding. Okay, here we go. Girl-made climate change. With your arrival, a sea change. Initially, some resistance, skepticism caved, glacier blue eyes melted the ice. The climate changed. Our world warmed. That's about my little girl. Let's see, I'll save that. I'll do a couple more and then we'll take some questions if you have any.
It looked like Linda was raising her hand to ask a question, Don.
All right, Linda, what do you got?
Well, I don't have a question. I just want to interact with you for a moment and be able to just open this up a little bit because I want to react to your poetry and to your daughter. That was lovely. And I'm not trying to stop you. I just want you to know that there's a lot of emotion on this side of the screen, okay? Thank you.
I appreciate that. I really appreciate that. Thank you. This one might be a little bit related to the novel I've been working on for a while. It's not really going anywhere, but it will someday. This is called 200 Years. I've swam beneath the ice for 200 winters, watched 200 summer suns shine upon this turbulent sea, watched your kin upon the shore, stepping gently, leaving only footprints first, then wooden paddle strokes, soon rumbles and streaks in the sky. I have seen your rise, rapid as the moonlight spread across a tundra plain, and now watch while the moon set makes ready. remembering how 200 years you watched for my spout, saw hope in the mist, made my grandmother into corsets, carved my mother for a mangled meal for the bottom trawlers with war weapons, steel whales with your men sealed, screaming inside. Some of your kind believe we wield the ability to hear those thoughts in your head. Your actions are already gale force. Only if you listened long enough at the ocean's edge, everything would crystallize, clear, and 200 years you would bear witness from sea. So that's about another, I mean, that's essentially my novel in poem form that I'm working on. It's the idea of how a bowhead whale could be over 200 years old, and basically seeing the advent of modern man and our the destruction we've caused in Alaska. You know, thinking about one whale has seen the last shots of the Civil War were fired in Alaska. This one whale has seen ancient man hunting them with ivory tip harpoons. One whale has seen, you know, the whalers from Nantucket and New Bedford and the kind of complete slaughter of the seas there, and then has seen us too, modern man, and you know, crazy things like detonating nukes in Alaska, and just that one whale has seen and felt all that. I think that's a really powerful idea. Couple more, and then we'll take a few more, take some questions. This one's this is from when I was a kid. My mom got permission. We lived in Akiak. She got permission for us to go across the river to some old village houses that had been abandoned, and the elder said it was okay as long as no one took anything. If anyone took anything, then the ghost would come back and haunt the village. And it was always that was fascinating to me, and that was kind of my introduction to some of the devastation wrought from the other epidemics that happened in Southwest Alaska. This is called Field Trip to the Ghost House, Admit 1. Field trip across the river ice, but the concern had to do with theft and ghosts, and the elders were right, I admit. One room house now gone, pilfered for firewood, rotted or stolen. I held on to the door frame. Dinner still on the table, dust. On the wall, sealskin boots. In the corner, the black Victrola in anguish. That's one of those images that just haunts me still. An old school record player sitting in the corner. I don't even know if I'd ever even seen one of those before, the kind you crank with the big horn on it. Okay, I had seen a request, but I don't know if I'll take it because I think it was from my sister. Oh, okay. I guess I will take it. It was a direct message. She sent me a message there. She's asking for a poem called 100% Tundra Cotton. We got to find it. I had it marked here.
May I ask, I heard that your sister did the illustration cover. Is that the same sister, or?
It's a different sister. So my sister Beth did the illustration cover. And that's based on an elder. She did a really cool project with elders in her area where she lives. And she recorded their stories and then made artwork of their stories. And then there's an app, and I think if you look it up, it's just called Elder Stories. And it's available on like the Apple App Store, and you can hear the different stories from those elders. It was a really cool project. Looking for where that poem is at. I'm so new at this book, I don't have the pages memorized.
And we had a question in the chat from Mrs. Olenko, which is if you've written any poems about the Maquis.
Oh, the Maquis. Yeah, steam bath. I have. I'd have to find where that one's at
Well, he's looking for his poem. I'll just mention that for those of you here in Bethel, we do have 3 copies of his book at the library that'll be available on Monday. So you can come check that out if you want to read the entire book.
Oh, and I was thinking too, I did find it. She was kind enough, my sister was kind enough to actually send me the page number. While you're doing that, just find the one about the steam bath too. What I thought I would do is for one of the, I always, if I go to a book club or something, I always tell people, they ask how to compensate me. I say, pick, click, give to the Tundra Women's Shelter. And I thought today, if anyone is interested in the message area, I will sign all 4 of my main books. I'll put them in you'll have a signed collection of all those. If anyone wants to bid on those, you could do that for the Tundra Women's Shelter. We'll give them a little Christmas boost if you want to. And then the winner of that can, I'll send them to you. We'll communicate and get your address. 100% Tundra cotton, here we go. I want them to discover the value of tundra cotton swaying in the breeze. Plump blueberries, moose and salmon, spiders, furry yellow caterpillars, mosquitoes, and even no-see-ums. I want them to know a crane call from a loon's cry, the difference between a rainbow and a sundog. I want them to imagine gold deposits beneath their favorite park, an oil well under their swimming pool. All right. Well, let me do I can't find my Mahi poem. But I've got 2 more that I at least want to share. Well, maybe 3 more. I mean, you're all stuck at home. What else do you got to do, right? We'll start here with this one. This is another true story. It's called Eskimo Baseball. I remember when Benny stole my baseball glove. He and the other boys raced off down the muddy boardwalk, laughter fading with distance, my soft leather mitt clutched in his hand. They probably had never touched a baseball glove before that cool spring day. The irony didn't occur to me then as I choked back the tears. I was the only white boy in the village. Gossip. The only left-hander, too. I later became good friends with Benny, but yeah, he initially would like to beat me up, and on that day, he stole my baseball mitt. I did get it back. All right. I got that one. Okay, I got 2 more. Here we go. Then we'll take some. I can't find them a paid poem. I'll read that to you some other time, Miss Olenka. These 2 last ones will be kind of, and then if there's other requests, I can take those too, and we'll just take some questions. The last 2 are sort of related to the situation we're in right now, and I don't like to ignore stuff. I like to kind of take those issues head on. And so here I am. This is called This I Miss. My daughter calls COVID the sickness, and I'm sad for her not getting to play with friends. But it doesn't faze her, though she says she misses Taco King and Joe's cats. Our friends miss going to movies, sitting in a restaurant, belling up to a bar, sporting events, live music, bookstores and birthdays, pools and playgrounds, cookouts and camping. What do I miss? Not worrying about the awkward space between us. Breakfast at a cafe. Hugs. Probably a few hug missers out there, right? I should do one funny one and then one serious one to wrap up. This was me playing with an old poem that's called a William Carlos Williams poem. This is Just to Say. Some of you will recognize that. in this. This is called I'm Just Saying. I'm Just Saying. I sort of used the last sheet left on the roll and realized you would have done the same. I'd apologize, but one sheet wasn't enough. And so, yeah, there you go. That was written back when toilet paper was like, you know, a shortage, you could say. And then last one. And man, this one, I wrote this back in March, I think. Maybe April, beginning of April. It's called For the Essentials. There will be no medals for you, no dinners in your honor, no book offers, movie deals or dramas capturing your sacrifices, your sweat and toil for a nation hungry for chocolate ice cream and extra toilet paper, essentials we purchase, delivered, unboxed, stocked, bagged, no pensions to lose, no sick leave, no funeral fund or insurance against anything. Know this, you heroes, your selflessness does not go unnoticed. And after the cleanup on Aisle America is over, we will find a way to give you the thanks you've earned. So that's my little nod to you, the essentials that are out there. I know there's some of you. Thank you so much. That was really fun. Minus not getting to hear your ruckus applause. Any questions or requests or anything like that? Thank you so much for coming tonight. Really appreciate it. Joanne?
Yes, I had a question about your typewriter in the back there and wondering if you still use it.
I don't. It was a gift to me from a neighbor. One day he just walked up the driveway with this. I mean, it's just in like pristine condition. And he was like, I thought you should have this. He gave it to me. Yeah, I love it. And definitely had used a typewriter when I was a kid. I had access to one and thought they were pretty fascinating. Now the way I work, I would never get anything done with one. I type too fast and I would lose my mind trying to deal with the ribbon and all of that.
Thank you.
Yeah, other questions?
I was wondering when your next book of fiction will come out.
Me too. I think I have to write it. Yeah, it's going to be a long time, I'm sure. I had another novel called Moving Salmon Bay that I wrote, and it was only published in France because I chose to write about climate change. And when you have half the population not believing in it, your market, there's not such a great market for it. But it was published in France, so yeah. And then I wrote kind of another knockoff thriller that I didn't really go anywhere, but it led to the nonfiction books. And so, yeah, one of these days, I'll get the whale book finished, and then, but that who knows how long that will take.
Don, hi.
Yeah, Bev. Hi.
Hi. So some years back, you had given me a couple of screenplays to read to get my feedback on, and I put them somewhere, and I found them recently, and actually, I read one of them and it was pretty good. Have you been working on any screenplays or anything like that?
Yeah. Take those and burn them immediately, please.
No, I'm waiting for you to get really they're on big screen, and then I'll auction them off.
Okay. Yeah. That sounds, yeah. Don't let that be your retirement plan, Bev. Yeah, I'm always working on something. I've got a couple different screen things in the works. And we just released a short about Ada Blackjack that some people might have caught. I wrote that. And then, yeah, we hope maybe that'll turn that into a TV series or something. And then, yeah, I've always got a couple screenplays out there and hoping to do something with them. I want to kind of get some stuff made here in Alaska, but right now it's too hard to, they got rid of all the film investment incentives, so it's hard to
a follow-up though. I mean, the Ravens gift seemed like it would be a great movie. It'd
be a fun movie. Yeah. I mean, it's gotten really, we're still trying to do something with it. The director who I've been working with him, the guy who did Frozen Ground, Scott Walker. And yeah, it just hasn't gone anywhere. Had our legislature got rid of the film tax incentives, and that just means no films will be made in Alaska, basically. They'll be made in Canada, and we could still maybe get it made in Canada at some point, but we'll see. I would love for it to be made in Bethel, of course. I just need some kids to go shoot it, make it there. Other questions for me? Thanks, Bev.
I got a question, brother-in-law Don. It's brother-in-law Greg from Grand Rapids, Michigan. How are you?
Good, Greg. Good to see you, man.
Great job. I got all your other books here. I know that my wife Jill ordered the poem book. When will that be available in shipping? Do you know?
So I can answer that question, actually.
Sequoia can answer that.
I can. Hi, nice to meet you. I'm Sequoia. I've actually never even told you this. I was so honored to work with Don on this book. This was, this was a journey for me as well. This is the second book of poetry that we've done. The first was my mother's, and she graciously let me test my publishing of poetry through her. And then the second was Don's, which was a huge honor. And we actually have 6 more poetry books coming out in the next 2 years. And one of them, Don helped me select. I have been using him and going back and forth with him. I had my publishing company for 13 years, but we're a very small publishing company. And it's because of authors like Don who have such incredible writing and such a really strong reputation in the literary community, who give small publishing companies like mine a chance, that we're able to grow and develop as publishers. And for anybody who knows anything about publishing, it's a freaking crazy world. So for me, especially through COVID and over these last few years, it's been so amazing to build relationships with authors as talented as you, Don. And so thank you so much for that.
Thank you.
With that being said, we're a small publishing house. We do distribute, obviously, through Amazon. We encourage people to purchase through small bookstores and through the publishing house directly. The website, I'm going to put in the message to you guys. Don's book is featured on the website, and you guys can go there and purchase it directly. We ship out the next day, the next business day, as soon as it's ordered. Obviously, if you're in Alaska, it takes a little bit longer to get to you sometimes. It is also available. We just sent the new stock to Amazon yesterday, so it should be available by Monday again on Amazon. There is also a distributor out of Alaska who just picked up another, I believe, 50 copies that will be going to a couple of bookstores in Alaska as well. And I can make sure to get Dawn a list of what those small bookstores are, so you guys will know where that will be available.
Thanks, Sequoia.
And we had 2 questions in the chat. Sequoia, what's the name of your publishing company?
The publishing company is D'Angelo Publications, and I just put it in the chat so you can see it in there. There's the website. And if you go to the website, which is d'angelopublications.com, Don's book is featured on the front and in the bookstore, and you can order it directly from there.
Oh, I see a question from Kevin Morgan.
Hey, Don. Hey, everybody. Good to see everybody. I enjoyed the poem about the tent blowing into the lake. And I was trying to remember more details of that story to tell Eileen. So I was wondering if you would be able to elaborate more on the tent and like the size of it and how exactly it blew into the lake and maybe the net worth of it.
The net worth of it, yeah. That's a great question. I was afraid you were going to ask about or make me talk about eating too many berries before that happened. So yeah, it was a Weatherport tent. So they're like a $1,200, $2,000 tent. It was my first time setting up one of those. So my buddy Myron dropped me off and I set up this tent and got it all put together. and was like, wow, this thing is bomb proof. I'm glad I have this tent, because the weather was starting to get bad. It doesn't have a bottom on it. It's just a dome, kind of like a Quonset hut thing. And I fell asleep as the wind was really picking up. The last thought I had before I fell asleep was like, wow, this thing is an awesome tent. I'm so glad I have it. And then I woke up a couple hours later and I heard a plane coming, I thought, or a jet. And I thought, wow, I couldn't imagine Myron would fly in late at night. And then I heard this woof, and the tent just flew out into the lake. I could see it flew like about 40 feet up in the air and then landed in the lake. And then I was like, I'm going to die. Like I swore, and I said, I'm going to die. And then the tent sank, and then it was just pandemonium and rain and nastiness. Yeah, it was a crazy story. I told it on Arctic Entries. There's a funny recording of it from Arctic Entries, so I can share that with you, Eileen. If you look up Arctic Entries, I've told 2 stories there. One's a ghost story. If you caught that I said one of my schoolhouse I lived in was haunted, that's one of them. The other one is my tent blowing in the lake. Yeah, that was a crazy story. There's a question from Sean there. It's kind of fun. A couple of my favorite poets are listening. And then Nancy Lord, another one of my favorite writers, is on here. So it's so cool. Like, honored to have you guys wasting your night listening to me. But Sean asked, I mentioned that this is the most personal book. And do I feel that there's something about poetry that allows me to tap into the personal more so than other genres? That's a really good question. I'm still, I mean, I've written a few personal essays, but I'm still kind of reluctant to do anything with those. And so poetry will let me do it in like shorter little snippets. This year, though, when in February, my wife was diagnosed with Hodgkin's lymphoma, and that was the first time where I really was like writing publicly, really deeply personal stuff. And oddly, I didn't write too many poems about that. I wrote only 1 or 2 poems about it, which was kind of a flip of that. Like, it was almost like I didn't know how to write poetry about that experience, but I could somehow do it, share kind of her journey and our journey, kind of through short essays on blog form. But I think poetry does let me kind of maybe hide or bury a little bit of my emotion in some other form. And I know it definitely helps me get out my kind of maybe angst about some of our current political and world situations. And I can do that through poetic form, and it's sort of maybe an excuse for me to not just hit straight with it and just do it in poetic form. Any other questions for me? This has been fun.
I just wanted to let everyone know real quick that we just got a note from the warehouse that Homer Bookstore is stocked with them as well. It's in Homer, Alaska. Alaskans would know that, so.
End of the road, man. Best place ever. Love Homer. Love their bookstore too. That's where if anyone comes, they need to just take, like, everybody that comes from the States thinks they need to go to Fairbanks when they come to Alaska. They need to go to Homer. That's the place to go. Anyone else? All right.
Hey,
well,
Don.
thank you so much. Oh, yeah, go ahead, Robert.
Keep writing, Don. I love it. Keep writing.
Thank you. Thanks, Robert. I appreciate that.
I second that.
Yeah, thank you, Don. That was fun.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Everybody stay well. So great to see all these faces on here. Thanks for all the support. Man, I didn't even see all the other, I'm flipping through all the other screens. There's so many great people on here. Thanks to all of you. Lots of Alaskan writers and friends and family. Yeah, everybody stay well. Really appreciate it.
Much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us, Don.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Teresa. Thanks to the Bethel Library, the Kuskokwim Consortium Library, and everybody here.
And thanks to the Bethel Council on the Arts too. Before we wrap up, I wanted to let everybody know that they're hosting a concert tonight too. So if you're interested in more arts this evening, there's a concert that'll be streamed on the Bethel Council on the Arts Facebook page later tonight at 7. Yeah. Yes, and if you want to donate to the library and Bethel Council on the Arts, you can do it at bethelgives.org.
Amazing.
And thank you, Don. Thank you so much for joining us. And I hope when this pandemic is over, we can do an actual in-person poetry reading in Bethel.
Oh, I can't wait to come home. Thank you. Love to all of you out there. Stay well.
Thank you.
Thinking about all you guys.